Marine species conservation. Welcome to the underwater jungle. It's a beautiful world down here, full of many different species. Fish, coral, and invertebrate all peacefully coexist and have for hundreds of millions of years. However, as the technology of man has advanced, we as a species are a direct threat to their peaceful coexistence and continued survival. Not fun and games anymore, is it? They depend on us for their survival just as much as we depend on them to survive. Today, I'll be giving a brief overview of what we can do to help and explain how the two sides depend on each other. Sustainable fishing practices. One of the primary ways we can help ensure marine species conservation is by sustainable fishing practices. This means ensuring populations are monitored and overfishing does not occur. Overfishing has, in fact, claimed several species to extinction, like the Chinese sturgeon, one of the giants of the Yangtze, which I will cover later. Along with the booming aquatic hobby trade, many people who live in coastal areas also rely on stable populations of species for their livelihood, such as fishermen and oyster harvesters. Remember Deadliest Catch? Those men rely on a stable population of Alaskan king crab and snow crab to feed their families and keep the lights on. Education. You may be asking, education about what? There are those who brought marine life into their homes. Proper research on the kind of fish you plan on housing or the kind of fish and coral you plan on housing. Depending on the species, each have its own water salinity requirements, and some corals are very delicate and sensitive to change, and some are hardier. If you want corals, please go to a reputable seller, one that gets their corals from sustainable means. Corals should never be taken home as decorations, nor should fish. This leads to population decline and can introduce foreign infections or predators from an outside source that would wreak havoc on the delicate ecosystem. If you find an abandoned aquatic animal, contact a wildlife rehabber. Small steps change lives. The giants of the Yangtze. As of Thursday, July 28, 2022, 2 more fish were sadly added to the extinct species list by the ICUN in the first update in 13 years. The Yangtze sturgeon and the Chinese paddlefish were both declared extinct. With no preserved tissue samples, there is no hope of recovery for the Chinese paddlefish, but urgent and revolutionary recovery efforts make scientists optimistic that the sturgeon may still have a fighting chance. If cryobanking can be used, there is a chance that one day soon we may see a resurgence of the Yangtze sturgeon. Both species can blame overfishing as a contributing factor to their disappearance. In medieval times, paddlefish was a favorite of emperors. If you want your children to experience the same world you have, please help protect. How businesses are beginning to take notice. As of Monday, Coca-Cola is discontinuing Sprite's iconic green bottles. For 61 years, their green bottles set them apart from other clear soft drinks on the market. However, Coca-Cola is taking this step to do its part in conservation. Most of these green bottles, when unable to be broken down and remade into other beverage bottles, either would likely end up in a landfill or worse, the ocean. The narrow neck would only allow the smallest of fish in, and if they were just babies, once they would grow too big, they would die a slow, painful death of starvation, being unable to escape. So, what can we do to help? As I stated previously, small steps change lives. Teach your family and friends that it's important to support companies that are doing their part in the conservation effort rather than companies that sit idle and do nothing. We must leave a living legacy on this planet for the next generation. Teach your children not to disturb nests on the beach. Many sea turtles will come to the beaches to lay their eggs before departing into the water. The temperature of the nest is important for a proper male to female ratio. The easy road is not always the best way. If you want a pretty decoration, seek out fake corals. Don't harvest corals from their naturally occurring reefs. These ecosystems have already suffered enough damage during the coral bleaching, which lasted from 2014 to 2017. Lastly, if your child or family member wants a saltwater fish, but they don't have the time or the funds to care for them properly, get them a toy instead. And lastly, remember, Many roads, but we only have one plan.